Yuya is a lonely boy whose father remarries and brings him a bratty stepsister who hates his guts. However, everything changes when she is possessed by a ghost girl who has a crush on Yuya. Now he's tempted to do unholy things to her. On their first day of living together with his new family, Yuya wakes up and accidentally runs into his stepsister, Mitsuki, changing in his old room. She gives him a death stare, so he apologizes and quickly shuts the door, relieved that she didn't overreact. During breakfast, things are super awkward between him and Mitsuki. So to change the mood, his father reveals he is going to India for some business. So Yuya has to step up and take care of Mitsuki. Later in school, he tells his best friend, Tori, that he now has a stepsister, but the degenerate keeps asking stupid questions like, does she get stuck in the washing machine, or does she like it from the back?
Bombastic side-eye.
Yuya says he doesn't know much about her yet because she has only just moved in and treats him like a stranger. Just then, Yuya looks out the window and sees Mitsuki struggling on the track, which tells him she's not very bendy. Then, she starts talking with her friend, and her smile shocks Yuya because Mitsuki is so uptight around him. After school, he meets her outside and apologizes for walking in on her earlier, but she shows no emotion and coldly walks away, leaving him confused. However, since his dad told him to take care of her, he refuses to give up and goes after her. Suddenly, Mitsuki starts falling backwards, but Yuya quickly cushions her fall and sees that she's passed out. He takes her to the hospital, where the doctor informs him that he ran some tests and everything seems normal with Mitsuki. Soon after, she wakes up to find Yuya by her side, and when she learns he stopped her fall, it makes her feel something in her heart. Yuya tells her to stay put as he grabs some drinks, but suddenly, she gets out of bed and hugs him in a not-so-innocent manner. Even her voice changes to a much higher pitch, but before Yuya can figure out what's going on, she suddenly goes all red and kicks him out of the room. The doctor happens to pass by and asks what's wrong, so Yuya tells him his sister has gone to Lulu. That evening, Kyoko comes to pick them up, and on their way back, she asks Mitsuki to thank Yuya properly once they get home. However, as soon as they arrive, Mitsuki runs past Yuya and locks herself in her room, leaving both his mom and Yuya worried. They let her be for a while, and Mitsuki throws herself on the bed, not understanding why she hugged Yuya in the hospital. She admits she was acting like a completely different person, and even recalls seeing a strange girl on the walkway earlier that day. Soon after, she gets up to change clothes and is shocked and embarrassed to find that her kitty now has a collar. Just then, she sees a girl floating in her room, and she casually introduces herself as Hiyori, her friendly neighborhood ghost, causing Mitsuki to scream. Hiyori then pins her down, and while Mitsuki is struggling to free herself, she suddenly sees that she and Hiyori have swapped places. Hiyori then explains she has possessed Mitsuki's body. So Mitsuki looks at her hands and realizes she's become a ghost. Immediately, Hiyori starts petting her kitty, and seeing herself goon in real time, Mitsuki leaps at her to stop, which allows her to take back control of her body. Hiyori is pissed about being interrupted, so she suggests they goon together so they can both enjoy it. Before Mitsuki can even respond, Hiyori goes straight in and gives her a full performance, which causes Mitsuki to reach Cloud 9. After recovering from the intense workout, Mitsuki angrily asks Hiyori to remove the kitty collar from her, so she tells her it can be removed with a single press of a button. Now Mitsuki has to pee, so as she sneaks into the bathroom, the kitty collar locks itself again and stops her from leaking. Mitsuki turns to Hiyori for answers, so Hiyori tells her that the lock reattaches itself after 3 minutes and won't open for 1 hour, meaning Mitsuki will have to hold it for an hour. Meanwhile, Yuya is heading home after a grocery run when he meets his classmate Neko, who acts all mysterious and tells him to go home as his sister needs him, leaving him confused. At the same time, Kyoko returns and hears Mitsuki talking to Hiyori in the bathroom. When she knocks on the door to ask if anyone else is in there, Mitsuki says she was just talking to herself, which makes her mom worry about her mental health. When Yuya returns home, Kyoko asks him to check up on Mitsuki, so he knocks on the bathroom door and asks her to come out. Since Mitsuki is holding it tight, she tells him to leave her alone, but Bro refuses to leave until she tells him what's wrong. Amid all that tension, Hiyori gets impatient and possesses Mitsuki's body, only to realize that it was a bad call because she's seconds away from leaking out. Mitsuki quickly takes back control and locks up until the hour passes, which allows her to unlock the kitty collar and relieve herself. After that, she returns to her room and tries to remove the collar by force, but Hiyori tells her it will never come off like this. She then munches on the pudding Yuya bought from the store and keeps calling him Oni-chan, which makes Mitsuki wonder why. She asks him how she knows Yuya, and why she's not going to heaven. But Hiyori says there's a lot that needs to happen before she goes away. At first, she wanted to possess Mitsuki, but Mitsuki has a strong soul and pushed Hiyori out, so now there's a change of plans. She then raises her hand and says a chant that causes the room to transform into a void with the pearly gates in sight. She then explains that she was visited by Truck Kun and died without telling her beloved Yuya that she loves him. She adds that most of her memories are missing, and all she remembers is that she is madly in love with Yuya. When Mitsuki feels bad for her, Hiyori gets excited because this means she will help her reach the pearly gates. Turns out, she needs to make a stairway to the gates, and she has already created one step. When Mitsuki asks how she can create more, Hiyori points to the gauge in the kitty collar, which shows the level of satisfaction Hiyori gets from her love life. Since she died before experiencing love, the gauge keeps track of it and creates an additional step each time it's filled. So, in order to reach heaven, Hiyori must take over Mitsuki's body and choke on Yuya's sausage. Mitsuki gets embarrassed and immediately says no, as she doesn't want to have an Alabama family. Sadly, she has no other choice, as that's the only way to remove her kitty locker. As she cries over her situation, she suddenly wakes up and wonders if it was all just a dream, only to find Hiyori by her side. Later, as she joins her family for breakfast, she learns that her mom is also going to India, meaning she and Yuya will be home alone. When she abruptly leaves the table, Kyoko goes after her to have a word, but Mitsuki ignores her and heads to school. On the way, Hiyori asks her if she's sure about leaving like this since her mom is going away, but Mitsuki remains silent. Later in school, Mitsuki heads to the bathroom to change into her gym clothes because she doesn't want others to see her kitty collar. Hiyori tells her to get used to it, but she says she'll never get used to having a ghost floating around her. Hiyori then asks who she will smash Yuya when her collar only comes off for 3 minutes, so Mitsuki tells her to shut up and leaves, making her wonder why she's so grumpy today. Soon after, Mitsuki runs into her best friend, Ayaka, who says they'll do a 100-meter dash today, but Hiyori is bored as she wants to go home and get backshots from Yuya. Mitsuki tells her to stop bothering her, but when she learns that Yuya's class is also participating, she gets flustered and runs off. During gym class, Hiyori reveals that she was a fast runner when she was alive, so when Mitsuki is called for the race, she begs her to let her do it. Mitsuki agrees to it, and Hiyori surprises everyone by beating her opponent. However, Yuya finds it strange because she remembers Mitsuki couldn't run to save her life. Mitsuki then asks Hiyori why she's so hellbent on impressing Yuya, so Hiyori reveals that if they don't fill up the gauge from time to time, the stairway to the pearly gates will disappear, and they will both fall to their deaths. She then hands the body back to Mitsuki, who is horrified to learn that her only options are either crack her step bro or die. Just then, Ayaka invites her to join the track team since she runs so fast, but Mitsuki still looks horrified, which makes her worry. Suddenly, she feels the urge to take a leak, but her teacher arrives and announces that she's the fastest girl in their school. All that attention makes her nervous, which in turn makes it harder for her to hold nature's call. When Hiyori sees her struggling, she quickly possesses her body and asks the teacher if she can use the restroom on Mitsuki's behalf. Yuya finds her behavior rather strange, so he follows her in the locker room and asks if she's got a screw loose. Seeing that he cares about Mitsuki, Hiyori beams up with joy because this increases their chances of getting laid. However, Mitsuki tells him she's fine and is about to walk away, only for him to hold her hand and demand that she tell the truth. When she doesn't respond, Bro drags her to the nurse's office, not knowing that she still needs to use the restroom. After putting her on a bed, he goes to find a nurse while Mitsuki reaches the last straw. At the last moment, Hiyori suggests she use the flower vase, and Mitsuki has no choice but to do the nasty thing. However, as she takes off her kitty locker, Yuya returns with the nurse and gets a full view of her taco, causing her fountain to erupt. Later, as she walks home crying, Hiyori tells her it's not that big of a deal, but Mitsuki is super embarrassed because stepbro saw her like that. Meanwhile, Yuya is buying groceries, but he keeps blushing as that holy sight is etched into his mind. Just then, a girl passes by and makes him fall on the eggs, which gets his clothes dirty. As he's walking back, he runs into Neko, who already knows he and Mitsuki will be alone tonight, and she mistakes the egg yolk on her coat as his baby gravy.
Women.
Meanwhile, Mitsuki doesn't want to go home and wishes she were dead, so Shiori says she can always step on the road and let Truck come take her to an isekai. However, she should not do that because she has a brother who cares for her. Just then, a car stops next to her, and the driver is Mitsuki's aunt, Nanami, who offers to take her home. Once they reach, she notices that someone is moving next door, but doesn't think much of it and walks in. When she sees Yuya's footwear, she gets shy knowing that he's home. Just then, she hears rattling in the bathroom and goes there, only to see him plotless. She then calls him a creep and runs to her room, where she sulks in embarrassment. Later, while she's bathing, Hiyori asks her to be friendlier with Yuya, but Mitsuki says she can't change what she feels about him. She then recalls how he cared for her earlier and starts blushing. But Hiyori joins her in the tub and starts petting her kitty. After Mitsuki's floodgates open, Hiyori encourages her to have fun with herself because every girl does this. But Mitsuki is too embarrassed to even talk about it. When she tries to leave, she notices that the door isn't opening. Yuya hears the rattling and informs her that the door only opens from the outside, and he'll get it fixed tomorrow. He then offers to let her out, but as soon as he opens it, Hiyori takes over Mitsuki and pulls Yuya inside. Mitsuki quickly takes her body back, but now, they're locked inside the bathroom. Yuya tries to force the door open, but it won't budge, so he has to call someone for help. While Mitsuki is turning redder than a traffic light, Bro takes off his sweater and gives it to her so she can cover her plots. Even then, she tells him not to look at her, so Yuya sits with his back turned like a true virgin. He then admits that he has had fewer female interactions than a seasonal One Piece fan, which is why he doesn't know how to act around her. He thinks he did something to tick her off, but she says it's not his fault as she's been bad at socializing from the start. Yuya then reveals that he had a mother who died when he was in diapers, so when his dad told him he was getting a new stepmother, he was happy about it. Mitsuki admits she was totally against it because she had to change her name, and she's still not used to it. She then reveals she also had a father, but he was a good-for-nothing loser who lost all his money in gambling and was caught cheating with a co-worker. After the divorce, her mother was scared of living alone, so she got pumped and dumped by many, which left her heartbroken. Even though Mitsuki was little, she wanted to help her mother, but she quickly realized that only a 6-inch sausage could fix that hoe. Hearing her story, Yuya sternly tells her that he and his father are decent men and they would never ever do something cruel to them. This makes her flustered, so she tells him there's no guarantee what he'll do. Even then, Yuya assures her that he won't hurt her because they're family, which makes her heart feel warm. Suddenly, the gauge on her kitty collar fills up, and she realizes she doesn't need to get freaky to have it filled. Just then, someone rings the doorbell, so Yuya tells whoever's outside to come in and open the bathroom door. Mitsuki gets flustered upon hearing this, thinking that someone will get the wrong idea, but as she gets up, she slips and falls into Yuya's arms. But just then, someone opens the door, and it turns out to be Yuki, Yuya's childhood friend, who has just moved next door. A few minutes later, they're in the hall where Yuki formally introduces herself, but Mitsuki's eyes are fixated on her huge rack. The next day, as Mitsuki walks home with Ayaka, they spot Yuya and Yuki outside their house, and Mitsuki gets a bit jealous thinking they're dating. Later, while Yuki is making tea for them, Mitsuki looks visibly annoyed, so Yuya asks what happened in the bathroom. However, she's upset because he told her he's had no female interaction before her, when clearly, she's been friends with Yuki since childhood. That's when Yuya reveals that Yuki was his senior at the dojo, and he's always seen her as a big bro rather than a female friend. Eventually, she had to move away, but he never expected her to become so girly, especially around the chest part. Hearing this annoys Mitsuki even more, so she tells them she doesn't want to pry and leaves. However, Yuki stops her and says she brought cake for everyone, so Mitsuki says she'll return after washing her hands. In the bathroom, Hiyori appears and complains about Yuki suddenly returning to their lives and making their mission harder. Mitsuki believes Yuki is a good person, but Hiyori is certain Yuki will steal Yuya's heart if Mitsuki doesn't find a way to grow her melons. She also lifts the skirt to show that the gauge has changed color because she's feeling frustrated, and if she doesn't find a way to get closer to Yuya, the gauge will break and result in her death. Mitsuki believes she got plenty of action in the shower last night, but Hiyori believes she can't replace what the heart desires, and it desires Yuya's sausage. Suddenly, Mitsuki realizes that these aren't her own feelings but rather Hiyori's, and all of this confuses her to exhaustion. Meanwhile, in the living room, Yuya can't believe Yuki has those juicy drumsticks and ripe melons. To make matters worse, she quietly asks him if she looks more womanly now, but Mitsuki suddenly returns and starts getting all cuddly with Yuya. As Yuya watches in confusion, he doesn't know that it's actually Hiyori. While Mitsuki is screaming in her ear, she tells the girl to calm down and watch as she embarrasses Yuki. Hiyori then drops her cake on Yuki's jugs, but Yuki casually starts eating it with her finger, which makes Yuya's soldier give her a salute. As Yuya quickly brings her a towel, Mitsuki gets pissed and takes control of her body, only to bump into the guy, who then falls face first between Yuki's jiggly jugs. To settle it once and for all, Mitsuki asks him if he likes her chicks round or flat, but Bro says why not both. This causes her gauge to fill, and Hiyori celebrates as more stairs show up in the void and the kitty collar repairs itself. A few days later, Mitsuki heads out to grab the newspaper and notices that it's rather windy. Just then, she sees Nanami wobbling around after having a few too many, so she invites her in. When she brings her water, Nanami passes out and spills it on Mitsumi's cute plot covers, making Yuya flustered. Soon after, Yuki arrives too, but Mitsuki gets annoyed, so she decides to walk to school by herself. Hiyori chases after her and insists that she stop Yuya from getting cozy with Yuki, but Mitsuki tells her she needs time to resolve her own feelings. As they continue walking, Hiyori looks back at Yuki, who wonders if she's looking at her. Later in school, Yuya's friend Tori complains that Yuya's bagged not one but two baddies. He mentions he saw Mitsuki trying her best to hide her plot covers because of the wind, which instantly makes Yuya think of her cute and wet plot cover. Unbeknownst to him, Mitsuki actually forgot to wear one after her previous pair got drenched, so the only thing keeping her safe is the kitty cover. Just then, Ayaka invites her to eat outside, but since it's really windy, they decide to go back inside. Before that, Ayaka leaves to grab a few drinks, and Yuya ends up passing by. Mitsuki tries to bail because she doesn't want to expose her kitty collar, but Yuya grabs her hand and asks why she's so angry. As the wind keeps blowing, Mitsuki freezes in place, unable to get a word out, but Yuki shows up and tells him to stop bothering the poor girl. This makes Mitsuki see her as an older sister, but as she turns around to thank her, a gust of wind lifts her skirt and reveals not only her smooth cakes, but also kitty collar to Yuya. Bro is so shocked that he trips on his feet and hits his head on the wall, which knocks him out. Later, as Mitsuki returns to her class, she finds a package on her desk, and it turns out to be a plot cover, making her wonder who left it here. On the other hand, Yuya lands in the infirmary after getting a glimpse of Mitsuki's freaky kitty collar. That night, Mitsuki lies in her bed, embarrassed about all the freaky accidents she's had in front of Yuya. When Bro calls her for dinner, she doesn't even respond, so he lets her be. Just then, Nanami shows up, saying she was in the area and wanted to check up on them. Yuya invites her for dinner, so she takes him up on her offer and says Mitsuki must love his cooking. Later, Yuya leaves the dinner at Mitsuki's door, but once again, she doesn't respond. Hiyori appears and scolds her for giving Yuya the silent treatment, even though he's going out of his way to cook for her. Mitsuki says she didn't ask him to do anything, but Hiyori tells her to stop being a brat because she eats everything he makes happily. She then starts tickling Mitsuki to cheer her on and advises her to fix her attitude toward Yuya. Mitsuki admits she's too embarrassed to face him after what happened, but Hiyori tells her to get over it already and use her charms to rizz him up. The next day, Yuya wakes up to his phone ringing, and it's his dad who informs him that he and Kyoyo have gone to a different country for their honeymoon. He then asks Yuya if things are okay at home, and when Yuya says yes, the old man advises him to keep his sausage in his pants before hanging up. Afterward, Yuya gets up and heads downstairs, where he finds Mitsuki in the kitchen. Turns out, she's made breakfast for him to return the favor, and Yuya digs in without questioning her, wondering if she woke up on the right side of bed. He notices that the food is too salty, so Mitsuki apologizes and asks him not to eat it. He tells her it's fine, but she keeps apologizing and says she can do better. Yuya is shocked because she's acting like a normal girl all of a sudden, as if she's a completely different person. She then goes all polite and asks if he'll teach her how to stew vegetables, and Yuya agrees to do it, not knowing that Hiyori is in the reins. Later, as she's doing the dishes, Mitsuki scolds her for acting like a pygmy, and warns her not to do anything freaky, or she will take over. Hiyori assures her that she will act platonic, and asks her to pay close attention so she can demonstrate how to act like a proper younger sister. Later, she takes Yuya to the grocery store, grabbing his hand and dragging him in so they don't miss out on the sale. Mitsuki closely follows, annoyed that Hiyori is getting all touchy with Yuya. However, once she goes in and sees Hiyori act normally, she notes that they look and act like actual siblings. She then sees Yuya laughing at Hiyori's silly antics, and it makes her slightly jealous because he never laughs in front of her. Just then, they run into Yuki, who asks if they're on a date, and Hiyori immediately cuddles up to Yuya because she sees Yuki as a threat. Yuki says she's just browsing and heads off, but Mitsuki is embarrassed because she called it a date. Just then, Neko passes by and tells Mitsuki that she shouldn't stay out of her body for so long, but Mitsuki thinks she imagined it because no one can see her. Afterward, Hiyori skips rocks and challenges Yuya to beat her. Seeing all this, Mitsuki wonders if she can start seeing Yuya as her brother, only to slap herself back to reality because he's not her brother. On the other hand, Yuya remembers a girl who lived in the neighborhood and used to call him Anya-chan, and he and Yuki used to visit her often. Suddenly, Hiyori realizes she's talking about him and falls into the water. But when he helps her up, she hugs him and tells him she was that girl. She starts to cry because he still remembers her. So Mitsuki decides to take back control before Hiyori does anything stupid. Turns out, she is unable to do so for some reason, and Neko watches from a distance, wishing Mitsuki had heeded her warning. At night, as Hiyori does the dishes, she tells Mitsuki that she had a lot of fun and even filled up her gauge, but Mitsuki looks visibly sad and stays silent. Meanwhile, Yuya is in her room, wondering if Mitsuki has a split personality disorder because sometimes she acts like a completely different person. Back in her room, Mitsuki tells Hiyori she can't take back her body anymore and begs her to let her have it now. However, Hiyori just laughs, saying she must have built a strong connection with her body, and now she can just keep it to herself. This means she can bounce on Yuya's pogo stick and build her stairway to heaven, and Mitsuki might go to heaven instead of her. As she heads off to get back shots, Mitsuki worries that she might never have her body back. On the other hand, Yuya is searching for the causes that lead to split personality disorder, and he learns that stress is one of them. Just then, he hears Hiyori in the halls, and when he goes outside, he finds her on the floor. She says she's scared of thunder and asks if they can sleep together, which shocks Mitsuki. Yuya agrees to let her in, but when she suggests they sleep in the same bed, Bro tells her no. He then assures her that he will stay by her side, and after making him promise not to leave, she tucks herself into bed, grinning as her plan to share the room worked. Mitsuki is clearly not happy about it, but she cannot do anything unless she has her body back. As Hiyori falls asleep, Yuya can't seem to get a shut-eye because there's a girl in his room. Suddenly, Hiyori sneaks into his futon and hugs him, saying she cannot sleep either because she's scared. She then wraps her arms around him, but when Mitsuki tries to take her body back, she is pushed back. She realizes she'll become a permanent ghost if she doesn't phase back soon, but then she realizes that no one would miss her anyway. Meanwhile, Hiyori apologizes to Yuya on Mitsuki's behalf, promising that she will not give him silent treatment from now on. She also promises to be the sister he always wanted, but all of a sudden, Bro gets on top of her and makes her think she's about to get some. However, Bro just flicks her forehead and tells her to stop try-harding it as bonds are built naturally, not by force. He then tells her to go back to normal, but Hiyori starts to cry, asking why he's so kind to Mitsuki when she's the one who can make him happy. She then gets annoyed and leaves Mitsuki's body at will, causing it to drop dead for a moment. She then pushes Mitsuki back into her body, only for her to wake up and see Yuya checking her heartbeat. Embarrassed, she kicks him out of the room, only for Bro to remind her that it's his room. In the morning, Yuya wakes up in the living room and runs into Mitsuki in the bathroom. She casually walks past him, saying that she's gone back to normal as he asked her to. A few days later, Mitsuki visits a water park with Ayaka, but she wishes she hadn't come because she doesn't want anyone to see her kitty collar. As she walks towards the pool, Hiyori notes that she's wearing a sarong to cover it up, and Mitsuki scolds her because it's her fault. Just then, Miss Funbags shows up as well to ruin the fun, and when Mitsuki feels insecure at her own surfboard, Hiyori tells her not to be sad because flat is justice. Just then, Yuya, Tori, and Neko arrive as well, and together, they play in the water and enjoy all the rides. A bit later, Neko notices that Mitsuki is being distant, and asks why she's not with Yuya. So Mitsuki says she's not good with water. She asks Neko why she's not playing with others. So Neko says her father owns the place, and she got everyone a free ticket so she could use them for marketing research. Suddenly, Mitsuki sees Yuya in the water, and it reminds her of what happened that night, causing her to gobble that popsicle like your mom gobbles that glizzy. While she's having a brain freeze, Hiyori gets annoyed because she's wasting a golden chance to get closer to Yuya. But Mitsuki doesn't want to go in the water or her sarong will fall off. Hiyori insists that she do something, or Yuki will use her jiggle physics to steal Yuya's heart. But Mitsuki seems indifferent to it. Annoyed, Hiyori tries to possess her, but when Mitsuki does not let her enter her body, she dubs her the most annoying sister of all time. This makes Mitsuki realize that she's never even considered Yuya as her brother, but he calls her by her name. Just then, Tori bumps into someone in the water, and it turns out to be her sister Mao. She thanks everyone for taking care of her dumb Oni, and it becomes very clear that they don't get along well. Mitsuki hears this and wonders if she should also address Yuya as Oni. When Mao's friend calls her, she tells everyone to take care of her prematurely balding brother, causing Tori to lose all his aura. After she walks away, Yuya admits that she was cute, but this makes Mitsuki slightly jealous. As they continue playing, Yuya notices the look on her face and gets distracted by her. Just then, Yuki loses her balance and falls on top of him, causing the guy to drown under the weight of her juicy melons. Without thinking, Mitsuki jumps into the water to play the heroine, but she stubs her toe and looks in pain. When Yuya comes up again, he immediately carries her in his arms and takes her to the medical office, not realizing that she's lost her sarong on the way. Seeing this, Ayaka wishes he'd carry her like that too, but when Tori offers to carry her instead, she smacks him in the face. Meanwhile, Yuya carries Mitsuki and asks her to be careful, and she says she just cramped her leg and didn't stub her toe. Hearing this, he puts her down, but then he lays eyes on her freaky kitty collar, which makes him flustered. As Mitsuki nervously covers herself, some girls show up, and she gets anxious that they'll see her. When Yuya sees this, he comes closer and pretends to kiss her, causing the girls to run off. Hiyori thinks it was all part of Mitsuki's plan to get closer to Yuya, and gets annoyed, wishing she were in her body instead. In reality, both of them are feeling warm in the loins, and things get worse when Yuya takes off his trunks because Mitsuki thinks she's about to get clapped. A few minutes later, Mitsuki returns wearing his trunks, and Ayaka immediately notices this. She quickly looks around for Yuya, thinking he's going commando, only to learn that he wears Speedos under his trunks. That night, Hiyori reveals that Mitsuki's earlier stunt created more steps, and she's closer to going to heaven. Mitsuki is in her own distress as Yuya saw her in that kitty collar, but Hiyori doesn't care because it's not her concern. The next day in class, Yuya is having Alabama fantasies about Mitsuki, but when Yuki snaps him back to reality, he screams and alerts the whole class. He then asks her why she's here, and she gives him a bag containing Mitsuki's sarong. Just then, Tori shows up and assumes Yuya likes to sniff them, which earns him an elbow in the gut. Yuya then asks Yuki why she didn't bring them to Mitsuki, only to learn that she's out with a cold. After she leaves, Yuya wonders if her sister is the freaky type, but this makes her sweat, and he unknowingly wipes his face with a sarong. He then wonders if Mitsuki is doing all this to tempt him in a sussy way, only to slap himself with the sarong to wipe that thought. That's when Neko tells him to keep his nasty hobbies to his home, and Yuya realizes everyone is watching him. Meanwhile, Mitsuki is beyond embarrassed about what happened, and she blames it all on Hiyori, who tells her she's better off because at least she's not dead. At that time, Yuya is in the grocery store, and he decides to get something special for Mitsuki. By the time he returns, Mitsuki is trying to break the chain of her kitty collar with a pair of scissors, and when Hiyori tries to stop her, Mitsuki screams at her go away, as her life has been doo-doo ever since she came. Hiyori gets all sad and says she had no other choice, only to see Hiyori pass out in front of her. She then notices that the gauge has changed color because of how Mitsuki is feeling, so she tries to wake her up before she meets God. At that time, Yuya is heading to her room with dinner because he wants to talk to her about what he saw. At the door, he hears her making happy noises and wonders if she's petting her kitty, making him blush. Just then, he hears Mitsuki saying he can't breathe, so he slams open the door and watches her passed out on the floor with her kitty collar exposed. Bro thinks she gooned herself to death, but as he approaches her, he notices that she's burning up and tries to help her. Suddenly, Mitsuki pins him down and begs for that sausage, but Yuya sees her transform into Hiyori and is completely shocked. This causes the gauge to return to normal color, and Mitsuki takes control of her body back. She immediately pushes back and calls Yuya a jerk, but Bro is confused because she is the one who came onto him. Mitsuki then admits that it wasn't her who asked to be cracked, and that's when Yuya realizes that the other girl he saw is gone. Mitsuki then says it was Hiyori and collapses from fever. So when Yuya tries to lift her, she falls into his arms and starts calling for her mother. Yuya just pats her head and then puts her to bed. The next day, Mitsuki wakes up to Hiyori's yappings. She is happy that the gauge is back to normal and that she got freaky with Yuya, even for a moment. However, Mitsuki is just tired of her nonsense. Hiyori continues bothering her until she realizes that she broke Mitsuki after last night, and she's given up already. She then recalls the day she died and found herself in abyss, where the voice of God called to her and told her what to do. Meanwhile, Yuki takes Yuya out to buy Christmas cakes, but when she asks him what Mitsuki likes, Bro acts nonchalantly. Yuki urges him to take this seriously as Mitsuki is his sister, but he is completely shaken after what happened last night. On the way back, he asks Yuki if a person's personality changes with their surroundings, noting how much she has changed ever since she moved away. Yuki jokingly asks if he prefers the old Yuki, who would beat him up with a kendo stick all the time, so he says he prefers the current Yuki. She then reveals that people change a lot over the tiniest things, like when they fall in love or get stressed, but Yuya has been the same idiot for as long as she's known him. Hearing this, Yuya wonders if getting a new family sparked Mitsuki's brain plugs, but he still doesn't understand why she wears that freaky kitty collar. He wonders if Kyoko is the one who forced her to wear it so she doesn't crack before marriage, only to realize that sounds extremely stupid. He also wonders if Hiyori is Mitsuki's friend, but he cannot figure out how she pops in and out of nowhere and disappears again. He also remembers she had wings on and assumes she is into cosplaying, but it doesn't make sense to stay in cosplay when your friend is dying from fever. Suddenly, he gets the idea that Mitsuki and Hiyori are scissor sisters who like to roleplay. But before he can think further into it, Yuki asks him to guess why she changed so much. As he looks up, he sees a delivery guy next to his house, so he thanks Yuki for giving him company and leaves without answering her. Heading home, he sees that he got a parcel from his dad and wonders if he's sent him another souvenir. Just then, Mitsuki arrives and hugs him, which makes his tickle pickle. She then says she has to tell him something important, but before that, she has to take a bath. Thus, Yuya heads to his room and tries his best to wait for her, but his patience is running thin. He keeps imagining weird things about her, but also feels guilty because she's his sister. Meanwhile, Mitsuki is in the bath, but it's actually Hiyori who's taken over while the real Mitsuki falls asleep. Turns out, she wanted to be clean before she jumps on Yuya's Excalibur, and even though she feels guilty for doing this behind Mitsuki's back, she has no other choice, as Mitsuki has already given up. After that, she heads to Yuya's room, and Bro is shocked because she's wearing only a shirt. She then sits beside him but starts to get nervous as she doesn't know how to approach the subject. She wonders if she should tell him the truth, but decides against it because he'll think she's crazy. Just then, she trips and falls into his arms, but Yuya thinks she's still dizzy from the fever. Just then, Mitsuki wakes up and realizes what she was trying to do, so after she gives her an earful, Hiyori chickens out and switches places. At the moment, Yuya assumes she wants to come out as a rainbow sister, so he tells her he won't judge her even if she likes girls. When she asks what he's talking about, he mentions seeing a redhead with wings, and the girls think he can see her. Hiyori waves her hand in his face to test it, but he gives no reaction, which means he can't see her right now. He even says he's fine with her wearing the freaky kitty collar, but as her older brother, he still cares about her and wants her to be careful. Even though he's got it wrong on so many levels, Mitsuki feels flattered because she thought he would find her disgusting, but he's kind and supportive. Just then, he points out that his cosplay is showing, which embarrasses her and prompts her to kick him out of the room. The next day, as she's leaving for school, he asks if she's feeling better, but she ignores him and heads out. When he goes into the kitchen, he finds a note from her thanking him for the cake and letting him know she's going to school. At school, Ayaka asks Mitsuki if she'd like to do something fun after school, but Mitsuki says she just wants to go home and goon herself to sleep. Ayaka insists that they do something physical, noting that Mitsuki will become fat if she doesn't move around, and everyone will call her Chubutsuki. Hearing this, Mitsuki asks if she can join any clubs, and Ayaka tells her she surely can. After she leaves, Hiyori appears and begs Mitsuki not to join a club because it'll get in the way of her getting closer to Yuya. At this, Mitsuki says she'll just look around different clubs but not join them, but she's also bummed that Hiyori won't get fat, unlike her. Later, the girls head to the tennis club, and the club president asks them to warm up with a match. While Ayaka is doing well, Mitsuki trips over like a clumsy idiot and begs Hiyori for help. At first, Hiyori says no, but when Mitsuki gets tired and collapses, Hiyori takes over and plays so well that even the veterans are shocked. After getting her cakes handed to her, Ayaka finally gives up, so Hiyori gives back the control to Mitsuki. Just then, the club president arrives and begs her to join their club because, with her talent, they can go to Wimbledon. As she continues yapping, Mitsuki gets overwhelmed by everything and decides to skedaddle. Next up, they head to the football club, and they're immediately put into a match. Mitsuki has no idea what to do with the ball, so when Ayaka snatches it from her, Hiyori shows up and asks if she would like some help. After giving control to Hiyori, Mitsuki transforms into Prime Sergio Ramos to snatch the ball and then dribbles past the entire team like Messi. After she puts it in the top corner, the team captain approaches her and begs her to join their team so they can become world champions. Hiyori accepts it on Mitsuki's behalf, thinking Yuya will let him ride it till Kingdom Come if she becomes a world champion. The captain then takes her to the office, where she's given a buttload of papers to sign, including one that says she'll live in dorms and be ready to practice at any time. Since this means she won't get to see Yuya, Hiyori gives back control to Mitsuki, and they skedaddle out of there. After that, they try cycling, baseball, and a fitness club, but they all prove too much for them. Meanwhile, Yuya and Tori are also looking to join clubs, and they ask Neko to join them just for the fun of it. On the other hand, Mitsuki and Ayaka head to the kendo club, where they find Yuki. She works as a part-time coach there, so she asks the girls to have a sparring match. Just then, Yuya and the others show up, and Hiyori asks Mitsuki to switch places so she can kick Yuki's cakes in front of Yuya. Mitsuki agrees to it, so Hiyori challenges Yuki, and she accepts because she knows it's to impress Yuya. As Hiyori puts on the helm, it smells like morning breath, which makes her dizzy, but Tori thinks she's the master of the drunken style. Just when Yuki comes in for an attack, Hiyori can't tolerate the stench and switches with Mitsuki, causing her to take the hit and pass out. Afterward, Yuya apologizes to Mitsuki on Yuki's behalf, but Mitsuki says it's not her fault and gives a bombastic side-eye to Hiyori. She then looks at Ayaka and says she's done with sports clubs, and Ayaka agrees, saying they should check art clubs. Watching them leave makes Tori sad, but while he's thirsting over Yuya's sister, he gets kicked in the cakes by her own sister. After scolding him for taking her house key, she thanks Neko for the pool tickets and Yuya for taking care of her idiot brother. Meanwhile, Ayaka and Mitsuki go around campus checking out several other clubs until they reach the drama club and learn that Yuya is going to sub in for a missing actor. Turns out, the play is about a man who can't decide if he should crack his girlfriend or his stepsister, and while Mao is acting as the stepsister, Neko is acting as the girlfriend. When Mao starts getting all cuddly with Yuya, Mitsuki feels a hint of jealousy. As the play continues, Neko asks Yuya to marry her, and Ro agrees, which breaks Nao's heart. However, on day, Neko calls it off as she knows he loves Mao more and tells him to be with her. Just then, Mao arrives in a wedding gown, but as she gets closer, Yuya realizes that it's actually Mitsuki. Since Mao was kicked out at the last minute, she gets upset and runs on stage, only to step on the gown and tear it apart. This exposes Mitsuki's freaky plot cover to the audience, and as she screams, she suddenly finds herself in her room and realizes it was all just a dream. Just then, Yuya enters his room in nothing but an apron, and she screams again, only to realize that was a dream too. Then, she sees Ayaka on steroids overdose and screams again, causing her to wake up one more time. Finally woken up for real, she checks his phone and sees a text from Ayaka, telling her not to think too much about what happened during the play, making her realize it was real. The next day, while Tori is drooling over his Mia Khalifa magazine, Yuya is sitting next to him, regretting the day he befriended this gooner. Just then, Neko arrives and gives him tickets to an aquarium her father owns. Tori asks where his are, and she says she gave them to his sister, much to his frustration. That evening, as Mitsuki is walking home, Hiyori notices that she looks tired. Mitsuki says she couldn't sleep at all because Hiyori was doing freaky stuff to her. In response, Hiyori says she was just massaging her melons so they would grow. Just then, she sees Tori come out from her home, and he asks her if she'd like to Netflix and chill, but she passes on it and heads inside. In the living room, she finds the Gunner magazine that Tori was looking at earlier, and Hiyori believes it might belong to Yuya. Since all the models in the magazine have massive fun bags, Hiyori is certain Yuya likes his women thick. She then decides to use a magic spell to make her rack bigger, only to realize she has no way to stop the spell. This causes Mitsuki's melons to grow exponentially until they explode, and that's when she learns that she was dreaming because she'd slept in the living room. She is relieved that her jugs are still small, not knowing that Yuya is there too. When she sees him, she gets embarrassed and throws the Gunner magazine in his face, so he explains that it belongs to Tori. However, Mitsuki is still upset, so he shows her the aquarium tickets and asks if she likes them. Immediately, Mitsuki lets her guard down, so Hiyori quickly takes control of her body and excitedly says that she loves aquariums. She even says that she wants to go with him, which shocks Yuya because she was mad at him seconds ago. Soon after, they head out, and Hiyori is still in control, so she latches onto Yuya's arm. Outside, they run into Yuki, so Yuya asks her if she'd like to come too. However, Hiyori passes her an angry look, so Yuki takes the hint and says she's busy. After that, Yuya and Hiyori take the bus, and once again, she starts acting all cuddly with him and says she loves going out with him. Soon after, they reach the aquarium, and when Hiyori keeps running around like an excited girl, Yuya realizes it was a good idea to bring her here. However, the real Mitsuki is nervous because it looks like she and Yuya are on a date, and this thought makes Hiyori drop her guard. Suddenly, Mitsuki kicks her out and takes back control, but Hiyori starts screaming at her because she knows Mitsuki will ruin this day. Unaware of this, Yuya asks her to come see the jellyfish with him, which causes her heart to race. As she slowly walks towards him, she starts feeling moist in the nether region because being on a date with Yuya is too much for her to handle. Eventually, she feels weak in the knees and collapses, which causes her gauge to fill up. As she collects herself, she notices that the kitty collar is more sensitive than usual, but Hiyori says it's a good thing because it'll fill up faster. Just then, Yuya reveals that this place offers a discount to people below a certain age, so when he was young, he used to come here often with Yuki and others. In response, Mitsuki reveals that she would just come here any time she wanted because her mom used to work here, which shocks Yuya. She further reveals that her mom used to work in the office, so she would just sit here and watch the fish until Kyoko was done with work. Back then, she didn't have any friends, so when she saw fish swimming around, she would become happy, thinking the fish were playing with her. She would stay here for hours because she didn't like going to an empty house, and even now, she's not used to having him at home. Hearing this, Yuya realizes he's seen her before when she was young, but Mitsuki says she does not remember. She then asks if he knew anyone named Hiyori when he used to come here, but Yuya says he does not remember. After that, she heads to the restroom, where Hiyori questions her about why she asked Yuya about her. When Mitsuki says why not, Hiyori reveals that's not even her real name, and since she lost her memories, along with her own name, she gave herself a new name. Mitsuki is annoyed that she didn't tell her before, but Hiyori says she never showed interest in her background. She also says no one really cares since she's dead, but Mitsuki says that's not true. She admits she acted very harshly when Hiyori first possessed her, but over time, she's come to understand her more. Hiyori uses this moment to tease her, so Mitsuki gets annoyed and leaves the restroom. Outside, she meets Yuya again, and he takes her to a special section where they're allowed to touch the fish. After showing her that the fish don't bite, he urges her to try the section where they dip their feet into the water. Mitsuki agrees to it, but when the fish start tickling her, she makes happy noises and pulls her legs out. However, Yuya is in a playful mood and pushes her legs back into the water, which causes her heart to race again. With no way out of this, she just lets it happen until her gauge fills, and she passes out from having her floodgates open. After collecting herself, Mitsuki is super embarrassed and wishes Yuya would be bitten by a shark for forcing her. When she starts to cry, he gently pats her head and apologizes for upsetting her, which takes Mitsuki back to the days when her mother would do the same. At this, she just closes her eyes and relishes the moment. On their way back, Yuya gets her a plushie to make it up to her, but she remains distant. Suddenly, Yuya says he'll head home first and runs off, leaving her confused. By the time she arrives, she notices that he's turned on all the lights and is waiting on the front door to welcome her, which makes her smile for the first time. Once in her room, Hiyori tells her that their hearts are connected, which is why she was more sensitive to Yuya today. She also says she won't judge if Mitsuki falls for Yuya, but Mitsuki gets annoyed and tells her to get off because she'll never fall for him. Just then, she gets a call from her mom, and while she's talking about her day, Yuya arrives and leaves snacks on her door. Days later, Mitsuki is walking home and tells Hiyori that she is worried about her maths test. Suddenly, a cold wind blows her skirt up, and she complains that it's really cold. When she reaches home, she sees a delivery truck outside the house, so she goes inside and sees that her aunt Nanami has moved in. Nanami is excited to live with them, but she has to go to work right now, so she tells Mitsuki that she left something in the living room before heading out. Afterward, Mitsuki heads inside and finds a kotatsu, so she quickly turns it on and uses it to warm herself up. Soon after, she turns on the TV and starts eating oranges, and it feels so good that she even decides to study here for the maths test. Soon after, Yuya returns home and heads to the living room, only to see Mitsuki's cakes poking out from the kotatsu. When he asks what in God's name she's doing, she reveals she was looking for her eraser, which she dropped earlier. After she comes out, Yuya notices that she's doing homework and Nanami is out for work, so he advises her to keep the heat low and leaves. Sometime later, Mitsuki tries her best to focus, but it's so relaxing that she gets sleepy. Since she has some time on her hands, she decides to take a nap while Yuya is in her room, wondering when he last used a kotatsu. As he heads to the living room, he sees both Mitsuki and Hiyori sleeping and assumes Hiyori came over to study with Mitsuki. He then checks Mitsuki's notebook and realizes she got most of the questions wrong, so he decides to leave the right answers for her. Eventually, he gets sleepy too and goes for a nap, recalling the time his mother was alive, and they shared a kotatsu. Minutes later, Mitsuki wakes to someone clutching her, and soon realizes it's Yuya, who's in dreamland, rambling about his late mom. Getting flustered, she smacks him in the face and tells him to back off, but Yuya is so relaxed that he doesn't even wake up. She then sees that he corrected all of her wrong answers, so when he finally wakes up, she shyly thanks him for the help. When Mitsuki smiles and says he's happy to share a kotatsu with her, Mitsuki gets shy and tells him to stop saying embarrassing things. He then asks Mitsuki where her friend went, but Mitsuki has no idea what he's talking about. The next day, Mitsuki is in the kitchen, humming and cooking. Hiyori suddenly appears and notices that she's in a good mood, so she says Mitsuki looks like a happy wife making lunch for her husband. She also asks if Mitsuki likes to make lunch for Yuya, but Mitsuki is in complete denial, though Hiyori notices that she's slowly changing her attitude towards Yuya. When Mitsuki notices that the lunchbox is missing, Hiyori believes it must be in Yuya's bag, but Mitsuki doesn't want to open it without permission. However, Hiyori possesses her for a moment and opens his bag, and Mitsuki notices that there's another lunchbox inside along with the one she gave him. When he opens it, she finds that all the food she made is still inside, while the other box is completely empty. This pisses her off because she thinks he likes someone else's cooking more, so she decides never to cook for him again. Just then, the doorbell rings, and it's Yuki on the door, who's come to take the lunchbox, revealing that she was the one who made it for Yuya. Hearing this, Mitsuki gets even more pissed and says her cooking is not good enough for Yuya, which confuses Yuki. Just then, Yuya comes down with Tori and thanks Yuki for the lunch, causing Mitsuki to give him a cold stare. Sensing the tension, Yuki invites everyone over for dinner and even asks Mitsuki to help. Mitsuki is about to turn her down, but Hiyori quickly takes over and announces that she'll come. She then heads into her room to change, while Mitsuki keeps begging her to stay because she doesn't want to make food for Yuya anymore. However, Hiyori reminds her that the more she spends time with Yuya, the faster her gauge will fill and she can go to heaven. Mitsuki says Yuya doesn't like her cooking to begin with, so Hiyori smacks her cakes and says he will definitely like these. She adds that it is over for them if Yuki steals Yuya, so they must show him that Mitsuki is the perfect woman for him. Meanwhile, Tori is extremely happy that two cute girls are cooking for him, but Yuya says it's no big deal. This annoys Tori, so he tells her that at his home, his sister tells him to eat the weed growing in the lawn when he asks her to cook. He then starts imagining Mitsuki and Yuki in an apron and nothing else, so Yuya flicks him in the forehead and heads down to take a look. There, he finds Mitsuki dressed like a goth girl who knows fire magic, and since Hiyori is in control, she tries to impress him with her tea. However, Yuki tells Yuya that he should take a bath because it'll take them some time to prepare the food, which pisses Hiyori off. When she tries to attack, Mitsuki quickly takes back control and sends Yuya off with tea, and the guy is happy that Mitsuki and Yuki are getting along. When he returns to his room, he sees that Tori is already knocked out. Meanwhile, Mitsuki confesses to Yuki that she's only recently started cooking, and even though she's bad at it, she still likes to do it. That's when Yuki finally understands why Mitsuki was pissed earlier, and Mitsuki rants that he didn't even touch the food she made for him. Hearing this, Yuki pulls her into a hug because she finds her adorable, so she asks him not to think too much of it. She then tells him that Yuya is used to doing things on his own, but he's been happier ever since Mitsuki started cooking for him. Later, Mitsuki is setting up the table while wondering if Yuya is really happy about it, but nonetheless, Hiyori is determined to cook something good for him. When she takes control of the body, Yuki suddenly arrives with a food tray, but Hiyori turns around and knocks everything on her clothes. Later in the bath, Hiyori is pissed at Yuki, but when Mitsuki says it was an accident, Hiyori thinks Mitsuki has fallen for Yuki's tricks. To take revenge, Hiyori decides to wear nothing but an apron, but Mitsuki quickly takes back control and stops her. Just then, Yuya steps out of the bath and sees her plotless, so Mitsuki smacks him in the face. During dinner, Yuya learns that Mitsuki threw the lunch away, so he reveals he was saving it for later. Sadly, Mitsuki isn't there to hear it, and Yuki thinks that, despite the slap, Mitsuki has gotten closer to Yuya. Meanwhile, Hiyori takes Mitsuki to the void, and she's super excited because they're very close to reaching the pearly gates. However, Mitsuki is in shambles because she hates the fact that her gauge filled up from seeing Yuya's massive ding-dong. Later, she reads a storybook from which Hiyori took her name, but after she finishes it, she turns around to see that Hiyori has fallen asleep. The next day, when she wakes up, Mitsuki asks her if she can change the design of her kitty collar, but Hiyori tells her to relax because no one else is going to see it. This upsets Mitsuki as she's already been exposed several times, but even then, Hiyori acts nonchalant and asks her to take a chill pill. Unlike before, Mitsuki insists that she drop this attitude because not only does she get her in trouble, but she also does not remember anything about her past. Mitsuki scolds her because all she remembers is that she wants to taste Yuya's sausage, but Hiyori gets annoyed because she genuinely cannot remember anything. She then gets all teary and yells that it won't even matter because she is dead before throwing her book at Mitsuki and disappearing. Mitsuki heads to the balcony to look for her, but just then, a page flies into her hands. Upon reading, she realizes it's from Hiyori, mocking her for being flatter than Sakura, much to her frustration. Soon after, Yuki shows up and gives them a cake that she got from his grandfather. At this, Yuya comments that he hasn't seen the old man in ages, but Mitsuki is solely focused on the cake and takes it from him. She then asks Hiyori if she likes some, only to realize that she dipped earlier. Just then, she hears Yuki asking where the other girl is, and this shocks Mitsuki because she thinks Yuki is looking for Hiyori. Yuya thinks she's talking about Nanami and says she's at work, much to Mitsuki's relief. Later, Mitsuki is in her room, feeling happy as she's liberated from Hiyori's constant nonsense. However, recalling how upset Hiyori was when she left, Mitsuki wonders if she was too hard on her. She then goes back to studying until night, when she's woken up by Yuya calling her for dinner. She heads down and joins him at the table, where she learns Namami is late because of her job. However, Mitsuki just ignores him and starts eating, making him wonder if he did something to upset her. In reality, she's upset because Hiyori did not come back for dinner. Seeing her in distress, Yuya asks if the food is bad, so she quickly fixes her face and says it's good. In reality, she likes her eggs more salty. But Hiyori likes them like this, so she's grown to like them too. Mitsuki has also started liking sports ever since she showed up, and mainly, she's become more comfortable around Yuya, all thanks to the freaky ghost girl. Just thinking of Yuya makes her heart race, so after controlling herself, she goes for the sauce at the same time as Yuya. Since their hands touch, Mitsuki's kitty starts having a stroke, but Yuya thinks something is stuck in her throat and starts rubbing her back. This makes things only worse, but Yuya takes it a step further by literally picking her up and squeezing her tummy, all that makes her fountain erupt, and her gauge is just a little bit away from filling up. After putting her down, Ro asks if she's okay, but she smacks him in the face and runs away while telling him not to touch her, leaving him confused. Meanwhile, Mitsuki locks herself in the bathroom and can't figure out why she's feeling this way around Yuya, even though Hiyori isn't here. She wonders if she's really grown to like him, but quickly shakes off that thought and wonders where Hiyori went. Just then, she lifts her skirt and is shocked to learn that the kitty collar is gone. It finally hits her that Hiyori might have gone forever, so she runs outside to look for her, and Yuya follows after to make sure she's okay. As Mitsuki keeps running around and calling out to Hiyori, she starts to think that the gauge filled up and sent her to heaven. Just then, Yuya catches up and anxiously asks why she ran off, but Mitsuki says she was just out for a jog. Yuya calls the cap and notices that her knee is bruised, so when he asks about it, she tells him to leave her alone. When she tries to leave, Yuya stops her, so she finally breaks down and starts crying. She then tells him she had a fight with her friend, and she's run off somewhere, so she was out looking for him. Yuya offers to help look for her, but Mitsuki says he won't be able to find her, knowing that he can't see ghosts. However, Yuya says he sees her every day, much to her shock. He then suggests they look for her to meet again in an hour, so she tells him the girl's name is Hiyori. However, she suggests he let it go because it's not his problem. But Yuya says he can't watch his little sister sad, so he must help. After he leaves, Mitsuki feels flattered but also a bit confused because they've only known each other for a couple of months. After that, she runs off looking for Hiyori at the same place they first met, and despite all those times, she's made Mitsuki's life chaotic. Mitsuki feels heartbroken because Hiyori left without saying goodbye. As she breaks down into tears, Hiyori suddenly appears with her large angelic wings, saying that she was upset, but she was eventually going to return. Now relieved, Mitsuki points out that her kitty collar is gone, so Hiyori does some magical thing and makes it appear again. Immediately, Mitsuki runs into a bathroom and notices that the design has changed, though it's much worse than before. Hiyori reveals she went to great lengths to change the design just for her, so Mitsuki asks why it disappeared. Hiyori says she just took it off for a bit to change the design, but Mitsuki hates this design even more than the previous one. She also says she thought Hiyori had passed on to heaven, and begs her not to scare her like that again. Seeing this, Hiyori hugs her and apologizes for it, and Mitsuki apologizes too for what she said. After that, they head home, and Mitsuki asks her to revert the design, but Hiyori says she's stuck with this one now. However, when she sees that the plot covers don't even work with this design, she reverts it back to the old one. A few days later, Mitsuki is out with Hiyori, holding 4 tickets to a gacha game. Hiyori insists she give it a try, but Mitsuki reluctantly agrees as she always wins a pack of tissues. However, when she tries it this time, Hiyori rigs the game and makes her win the top prize, which is a hot spring vacation for 2. The next day, Mitsuki arrives with Yuya at the hot spring, and Hiyori starts spewing unholy things in the background, hoping it'd push Mitsuki to finally crack Yuya. Just then, they see Nanami, Ayaka, Neko, Asiktori, Mao, and Yuki step out of the bus, and it's all thanks to Hiyori, who rigged the gacha game and made them win 4 double tickets to the hot spring. She just wanted to do it for the fun of it, but now she's bummed that Mitsuki invited the whole cast for this trip. Just then, Yuya asks to hold her back, and she shyly tells him that she's fine, only to realize that he was talking to Yuki instead. Seeing them together irritates Mitsuki, but as she wonders if she's jealous, she quickly copes by saying it's Hiyori's feelings that are affecting her. Yuya notices her in distress, so he gives her a pancake to make her feel better. Later, as they check in, he notices that Mitsuki looks much happier, so he figures she was just hungry. After everyone settles in, Tori immediately hits the bed because all that traveling has made him nauseous. He also begs Yuya to put on that Bonnie Blue podcast, so he can watch it as he dies from sickness, making Yuya realize this idiot will never grow up. Meanwhile, the girls head to the bath, but when Ayaka sees Mitsuki covering herself, She awakens her inner P. Diddy. Luckily, Yuki shows up with her honkers of mass destruction and catches the attention of Ayaka and Mao, which annoys Hiyori. Neko also joins them in a swimsuit, saying it's her family tradition to provide no fan service to the nasty gooners watching this video. Later, Mao points out that Yuya must be feeling lonely since Tori is sick, but Yuki says he'd be fine because he's always hung out with girls since he was young. Ayaka and Mao are interested in knowing how Yuya was when he was young, so Yuki reveals he was a crybaby because she kept yelling at him. Immediately, Hiyori tries to show Mitsuki that Yuki is an evil woman, but Mitsuki is lost in her own thoughts, feeling something she can't explain. Afterward, they all get together for dinner, and Tori, feeling much better, joins as well. They notice that Nanami is a bit annoyed, and Ayaka reveals it's because she went to the mixed bath for some action, but only found old bones there. Hearing this, Tori says he'll join if Nanami ever goes there again, and Mao wishes he just dropped dead. They also notice that Mitsuki isn't with them, so Yuya heads out to check up on her. Meanwhile, Hiyori is urging Mitsuki to find a way to thirst trap Yuya, but Mitsuki is just frustrated about feeling jealous and blames Hiyori for it. Just then, Yuya shows up and asks if she's okay, but she tells him to mind his own business. This time, Yuya gets annoyed and says he's just playing his role of an older brother. As he turns to walk away, Mitsuki feels guilty and tries to stop him, only to trip and fall on her face. Yuya quickly turns back to check up on her, but when he sees that her plots are exposed, he gets nervous. Seeing this, Mitsuki calls him a creep and smacks him in the face before running off, making him wonder why she's acting so bratty today. Just then, a drunk Nanami hugs him from the back and tries to riz him up, but she ends up throwing up on him. Meanwhile, Mitsuki feels terrible for slapping Yuya, so Hiyori kicks her out and decides to take control. After that, she uses her ghostly powers to locate Yuya inside the mixed bath. However, when she steps inside, she finds Yuki activating the throat goat 6000 on Yuya's Excalibur. Before this, Yuya had to take a bath after Nanami puked on him, and he recalled all the times Mitsuki snapped at him for no reason. Just then, Yuki showed up fully unplotted, and they both looked in the other direction as Yuya asked why she was here. She said she wanted to try the mixed bath because only older people were here, and that's when Yuya realized he accidentally walked into the mixed bath. As he nervously wondered if he should leave, Yuki started laughing as it reminded her of the time they used to bathe together when they were young. However, Yuya was still nervous and said things had changed since then. When she asked how, he told her she had become more feminine, and this made Yuki smile. She then said that he had changed too, pointing out how he's become more responsible than before. When he asked how, she said he acted more like a brother now, and it's all thanks to Mitsuki. She then placed her hand on his and shyly told him he was the reason she changed herself. However, she got nervous and decided to dip, only to trip and land on top of Yuya. That's when Mitsuki walked in and misunderstood everything. At present, Mitsuki takes back control of her body and apologizes for walking into the wrong bath. As she leaves, Yuya tells Yuki that Mitsuki definitely got the wrong idea, and Yuki calls him a bonehead for not taking the hint. Soon after, Yuya finds Mitsuki and tries to tell her that it's not what she thinks, but she tells him she couldn't care less about his flings. Immediately, Hiyori warns her that doing this would make the gauge lose color, but she doesn't listen and collapses. Yuya offers to take her to her room, but she tells him to keep his filthy hands away. He assures her he won't do anything freaky, and promises that nothing happened in the bath, but she says he was forced to accept her, and she can never compete with Yuki. Finally, Yuya realizes she's jealous, but she starts throwing a tantrum and calls him an idiot. In response, Yuya pats her head and tells her that she doesn't have to be jealous, as she's also very important to her, which makes her blush. He then carries her and takes her to her room. Meanwhile, Tori heads to the mixed bath to get some action, but only runs into his own sister, who was there to see Yuya. She smacks him in the face with a bucket and knocks him out. Later, while Mitsuki is processing everything, she pulls out the pancake Yuya gave him earlier. Just then, Yuki arrives and explains that it was an accident, but Mitsuki acts like she doesn't care. Yuki sees right through her, so she hugs her and then takes away her pancake, saying that she will come out on top. That night, Neko calls Yuya outside and asks what he feels about his sister, leaving him confused. She also asks about Yuki, and Yuya says he's always seen her like an older sister rather than a woman because they grew up together. Neko notes that's not the case with Mitsuki, and she won't be surprised if Yuya finds her attractive. Yuya admits Mitsuki is pretty cute, but he's strictly speaking as her older brother and nothing more. Neko reveals that it's legal for step-siblings to marry, but Yuya quickly dismisses it as he only sees Mitsuki as family. As Neko goes into deep thought, Yuya sneezes and notes that he feels feverish after bathing, so she places her hands on his cheeks to take his temperature. She then says that he's making this harder for her because he's an idiot. So to awaken his inner Diddy, she proceeds to kiss him. The next day, everyone barges into the boy's room, and they notice that Yuya is not waking up, so they gather around him like he's dead. Soon enough, Ro wakes up and curiously looks around until he spots Mitsuki and tells her she looks extra cute today. Mitsuki is utterly shocked by this statement, while Mao is jealous that her dumb brother never compliments her. As Mitsuki throws a tantrum, Yuya wishes she weren't always so mean to him. But Yuki starts to get worried because he's not acting like himself. Just then, Ro casually starts honking her honkers and asks when she grew them so much, and Yuki is so horrified that she slaps him in the face and leaves the room. Seeing this, Mao starts to cry, thinking Tori's bad habits have influenced Yuya. As Mitsuki wonders what's wrong with Yuya, Neko walks in and reveals that she hypnotized him. Turns out, she made it so he will give in to his desires and be honest about what he feels. But Ayaka wants her to undo it because she doesn't want Yuya feeling everyone's jugs. Neko tells her she doesn't know how to, but Yuya will return to normal in due time. Seeing this, Hiyori points out that Yuya is going to be bluntly honest today, and Mitsuki realizes he meant it when he said she was looking cute. Later, on their way back, Yuya tells Tori that he's a cool and chill guy, but he doesn't understand why he brings goon material to school. He then tells Nanami to buy new pants as her current ones have a hole, before turning to Neko and telling her that she's weird but nice. Seeing this, Mao wishes Tori were the one who got the fever instead because he's dumb. But Yuki notes that Mao and Tori are closer than they act. Later, as they reach the station, Mitsuki recalls Neko telling her that now is the perfect time to ask questions to Yuya, so she wonders if she should try. After reaching home, Yuki waits outside his room so he can change, and while he's at it, he tells her she's become way more feminine. He adds that he finds her very gentle now, but she shouldn't break away from her past because that's an important part of her too. Before she can respond, Yuya falls asleep, so she heads downstairs, where Mitsuki asks her to go home, as she can take it from here. Yuki suggests she make dinner for Yuya, but Mitsuki advises against it because Yuya won't have an appetite. Hearing this, Hiyori praises Mitsuki for trying to get rid of Yuki so she can be alone with Yuya, but Mitsuki says that's not the case. Yuki then says she'll let them both be with Yuya, and it shocks them because Yuki can see Hiyori. Yuki responds that she's well attuned to the spirit world, so she's always been able to see her, but since Hiyori seems like a good spirit, she's decided not to meddle. After that, she heads home, but Hiyori panics because Miss Funbags was pretending to be blind all this time. However, since they're all alone, she urges Mitsuki to get some action. But Mitsuki says they must let him rest. Heading to his room, she places water at his bedside and leaves, not knowing that he's still up, and thinking about how soft Yuki's jugs felt. His thoughts somehow lead him to thinking about Mitsuki's freaky kitty collar, while also recalling Neko asking him how he feels about Mitsuki. He feels bad about calling her cute in front of everyone, so he decides to apologize to her. Meanwhile, Mitsuki is changing in her room when Hiyori suddenly activates her inner Diddy and starts messing with her. Just then, Yuya barges the door open, so Hiyori tells her to get ready for clapping, which makes her nervous. However, Ro casually approaches her and tells her that she needs to stop wearing that freaky kitty collar. Mitsuki is so embarrassed that she yells that she didn't choose this and kicks him out of the room. Just then, Hiyori becomes all sad, and that's her to the void, where they see that the stairs have reached the pearly gates. That's when they realize that their time together is coming to an end. So as the gates open, they hold hands as Mitsuki walks her into heaven. Hiyori feels jealous that she won't be able to see Yuya anymore, but it's all just a distraction because she's sad to leave Mitsuki's side. At the gate, she apologizes to Mitsuki for diddling her and wishes she'd be reincarnated as Yuya and Mitsuki's baby girl. After that, she walks into the pearly gates and disappears, so later, Mitsuki wakes up to see that the kitty collar is gone. The next day, she runs into Yuya downstairs, and he tells her his fever has died down. She ignores him and heads outside, but not before calling him Oni-chan, leaving him shocked. After that, she walks to school, taking the same path as usual, and waiting by the place she first met Hiyori. As she tears up, she says to herself that Hiyori was a pain in her cakes, and everything will be peaceful now that she's gone. Just then, Mitsuki appears and leaves her baffled. She then takes her to the void and pushes her through the gate, and Mitsuki thinks she's in heaven. However, she sees a sign that says Floor 2, and then looks up to see another gate that leads to heaven. Turns out this was a two-step process all along, which means Mitsuki and Hiyori will have to fill up the gauge one more time before she's gone for good. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed and watch this video on screen.